Your passport is your freedom. That's the title of this live stream. It's literally the first step you need to take. That's gonna be your ticket to see the rest of the world, or as much of it as you can. I live in Chicago. I'm from over east, from 73rd and Jeffrey. I know guys right now that won't leave the neighborhood. I know guys that won't, like, they never even been downtown, bro. It sounds like we be exaggerating when we say that, but we dead ass serious. There's some people that only go where they know. The most some cats ever move around in the city is if it's music related, because everybody out here rap. So if it's an open mic spot, let's say if it's party promoters that used to do like an open mic spot, they might get shut down on out south, and then they might do something downtown, or then they might change the venue from downtown to somewhere up north. That's how you get brothers moving around in Chicago. But other than that, if it ain't music related or work related, it's messed up, bro. Like, people don't go nowhere if they not familiar with where they at. So if that's only in the city of Chicago, imagine how it is for a brother that never left their hometown, never left their state, never left their country. I always get people asking me, like, why are you still in Chicago? How could you live here? And I told y'all, my answer to that is I'm living comfortably here. My money is here. I got family here. But trust and believe, like, as soon as I can come up with a way to get out the jam, I would. But part of the reason I'm comfortable here is because I live here. I've been here my whole life. I know the circles where I'm welcome. I know the circles where I'm not welcome. But that's expanding the more I travel, because every time I get to see a new place, it gives me a broader perspective of where I could see myself, if that makes sense. Yeah, man. Like, some people, they feel like you personally attacking them, and it may not even be that. You're just trying to open their eyes a little bit, especially like if you see them making the same mistakes. Like I said, I saw brothers spending all their money on like tattoos and in the strip club. Yeah, buying all type of dumbass shit. And I'm like, bro, that was your passport right there. That was your plane ticket right there.
The tattoos are not the word. The thing I see is widespread are the fucking shoes. And I actually resell shoes. I'm actually getting deeper into that. And there's a lot of money to be made in flipping shoes, especially if you're in an area like Chicago or something like that, if you learn the lingo. When you hear a lot of these dudes that saying it's all about game, because that's not just dating coaches to say that. But when you hear people that subscribe to that philosophy, those are dudes that pretty much, whether they know it or not, are the type of men where they want themselves to be above women, kind of like the 1%, but then they want the 99% of men to be subject to doing all of the blue pill shit. So they get the red pill, so these motherfuckers could do the blue pill shit, kind of like the Playboy type black men. So I'm always going to talk about the matriarchy, and getting out of the country is the best way to let dudes really deprogram from that culture, because they don't see it until they see women acting differently. And when they see black women acting differently, they really see there's another way. That's the first thing. The second thing I'm always going to be on is networking.
They feel inferior, so they don't want to pursue that channel. They rather struggle where they're at. And I think there has to be a decisive factor that compels somebody to actually go overseas. Like in my instance, I would have never thought to go overseas had I not been in the military. And being in the military put me in a position where I actually went to Europe. I was in Germany for a while. And that was where I got my awakening and realized that, you know, not every woman is the same. I started to get an inkling of it when I came to Seattle in the military, because I'm originally from California, and California women are quite difficult. And but then when I went to act, and I saw the way women treated men, it was an eye opener, to say the least. And so that's the reason why I got my passport, is because I actually experienced things from a different perspective.
But the thing about you, Marcus, that separates you from a lot of these other conservatives is you ain't gonna go out of your way to make these white people feel bad about themselves about that. But it's not like that's not in the back of your mind, and you're like, why are you doing this to me? We're all like, when them white liberal women get pissed off at you when they realize what your views are, right? Keep in mind, 25 to 30% of white women voted for Trump. People forget that. They're automatically, you're not in their culture. So now how I really feel about a nigga comes out.
Yeah.
That fear, that anger, you know what I'm saying? And so a lot of times when we say like, white black men don't want to travel because white supremacy and their hidden hand, that's kind of like pretext of saying we're going to act like cis. Because if people believe it doesn't exist, if we magically wish it away, then you won't get fucked up. Well, being from Chicago, I know that's bullshit. Because you go to the wrong side of the city, and I'm pretty... Royce was talking about going to Belize. I've never been there. It's definitely on the list. But what I want is every black person is not going to expatriate. Most black people are not going to travel, let alone expatriate. So that's a very minority group. However,
that might be a good thing.
Same thing with what Russell Taylor and Charles Tyler tried to do, rest in peace, when he would have been in Brazil. Charles Tyler would have been the guy in Brazil. Yeah. I just created a website for Obi-Wan, which is a guy, O'Shea has mentioned this many times, where Obi-Wan does traveling. He does favela travels, which pretty much is a touring thing in the favelas, but he also does parties. He also has Airbnbs. He also does... I actually created a website for him because, long story short, he was getting fucked over by another African American. And I said, and if I told you what happened, you would be like, that's fucking up. So I created a website. I still maintain it for him, and I'm actually going down there to visit him. I'm kind of being sponsored to do that, and I'll leave it at that. O'Shea mentioned that, but my point is, Charles Tyler would have been the centerpiece around networking around black people in Brazil and stuff like that. So when other brothers go down there, we got a ready-made network. Russell Taylor is kind of like that for the DR now, where he networks the barbecue dude and all other stuff. He's talked about Cupid Dan. That's a white guy, so it's not just black people.
My bad, I'm eating. He was blowing up the spot for the longest, Cupid Dave, and wasn't nobody really on him like that. They wasn't at his head, but my bad, go ahead.
Oh no, they put laws on his ass.
Well, yeah, that was the government, but I'm talking about brothers shaming other brothers.
Like, yeah, absolutely. And Cupid Dan, when he put his stuff out there, because I'm gonna tell you something. I'll give you an example. There's a website called Club Hombre. It's Club HOMBRE. It's a forum, and it's a forum. You don't see no pictures. It's a traditional old school forum, and it's been around for probably 2 decades now. And the website's still active. And white guys, because it's mainly white people on there, but there's other groups. No, it is pictures on there as well, because because it's a sex tourism site. And it's them really giving on the ground reports as to them. I'm talking about like 4,000, 5,000 word reports. I mean, they got all of it broken down to a fucking science. Ain't nobody shaming nobody. They going there for information. But see, the black people, because we got this, black men, we got this matriarchal, my dick defines me mindset, because your dick defines you because the bitches define your manhood. Right. We need to be honest about that. And that's a part of look, let me say this, and I hate to say it this way, black men are probably the most blue pill race of men in the United States of America. We have now a lot of people say, a lot of people will say we get married the least or all that bullshit to go against that. Let's keep it real. Black men originated the stepfather. White men been abandoning their kids when they couldn't pay the bills. That's why they put these laws in effect, because white men were abandoning their kids every time it's a recession. You go to old school Europe, when the Industrial Revolution was being activated, you got all these orphan kids like Oliver Twist and stuff like that. They didn't give a fuck. Black men never really did that in Africa and stuff like that. We let our women talk this bullshit about abandonment and all this dumb shit, like we doing that shit as a group, where these women, and that's why they shame us into going, not going overseas, when in reality, like, you ain't a man, you ain't this. But our women are doing Mocha Fest. They're doing Girls Trip. actually a fucking movie. You know how much money that fucking movie made? That movie damn near launched Tiffany Haddish. And what is Tiffany Haddish?
Loved it.
Hey, a certain population of black men have advocates, right? But then the question is like, who's the advocate for the black square? Who's the advocate for the educated black men, the blurs? They have no advocates. Why?
They sure don't.
Black dysfunction is an economy in itself, meaning think about all the different black dysfunctions and how certain white liberals and certain non-white liberals are able to like manipulate that for their own personal gain. For example, you look at ADHD. When that's pushed into school, that creates jobs for counselors, that creates jobs for special ed teachers,
psychologists, psychiatrists.
Yes, black dysfunction is an industry itself. And so, of course, they're going to have thousands and thousands of advocates because they have a self-interest. Every time you get another single mother, did you know that the private prisons, their actuaries base the amount of prison beds off how many people are going to be born in
I think I would fall into that educated lame category because I'm not the gangster or the thug and nothing like that. And I ain't the most.
I disagree with you because I've heard enough of your content. I would actually consider you to be more of a introverted classic man type of dude. And that's why I've went out of my way since I've been in the manosphere for the last few months. I keep telling people, you got squares and you got non-squares. What you got in the square category is it's a spectrum in itself. And I say you have the Renaissance man. The Renaissance man is the most unique individual of any race. That's the dude who, I'll give you an example. All right. I was a guy who was an all-state athlete. I was also a person that was an honor roll student. And I was also a person that had a different races of women easily when I was, even since back in high school, I was like kind of a mixture. But I was more of an introverted guy, but I had enough social skills and talent that I could mix with other groups. But my preference is to have a lot of time to think. My preference is to be more of a lone wolf. So that's more of a Renaissance, man. You can whoop someone on the streets. I love fighting when I was coming up. I love fighting. I boxed. I had to protect myself because I grew up in Milwaukee in the Midwest. So I always fought, right? So the Renaissance man is a guy who might have grew up in the hood, but he was able to use his high IQ to get out of the hood.
Exactly.
He's not like the corporate category. Black men have been silenced. They've been emasculated by this culture. They've been emasculated by their communities. They've been emasculated by their females in what Preem was talking about. And Edward talking about this matriarchy. And for the first time, what it is that black men have so much pent up, anger. Rage. They have so much rage. They have so much pent up genius. And what's happening is that for the first time, they have megaphones through the internet that it's like whack-a-mole. They say, oh, we're going to shut this person's channel down. They come up with another channel. Even if they boot every black manospherian off of YouTube, we will come up with websites for the first time and we will get our voice heard. And so it's not complaining, because this is what you got to understand. These content creators are individuals, but they're also brands in the sense that there's thousands and thousands of black boys that are not yet even on YouTube yet that will be able to take this material that we did not have 10 years ago, that we did not have 5 years ago, and they will be able to not make the mistakes that the Gen Xers made. They will be not make the mistakes that a lot of baby boomers made. They will be able to get this information and then they will cut it up and they will modify it to their liking. So this not complaining. You're critiquing something that a group has not had a chance to speak on for like 30, 40 years.
Exactly. And this whole thing, see, men of all races, we are beasts of burden. And for the most part, we have this natural inclination to do the right thing, to go ahead and be protectors. But what has happened in the black community is that the black community has turned its back on the average, everyday thinking, heterosexual black male. Okay, the black community right now is a matriarchy, and it's led, and the reins have been given to black women and their subordinates, which are the heterosexual males. And what you see a lot of men doing now, these men are in the manosphere, they are absolutely refusing to see other brothers, young brothers, get led to the slaughter. So they're going out there on the front lines. They're taking the hits. They're making themselves the targets to say, no, you don't have to deal with this shit. You don't have to tolerate this shit. Fuck the community. because the community, today's community doesn't give a rat's ass about you. Pursue your own self-interest, actualize yourself, be the best person that you can be, and then do whatever you want to go ahead and do from that. Do you first. And that's why you hear a lot of shaming language coming from the pro-whack bootlickers saying, yo, some coon sell out, you're supposed to be about the community, but folks saying, no, fuck that shit. Let that shit burn, because you guys don't have our interests at heart no more for the heterosexual, average, everyday thinking brother.
You know what's ironic, what you just said? You know, we talk about these advocates for the degenerates and the aggressives of the culture, but have you noticed that I mentioned earlier in the chat, Zach TV was murdered 2 weeks ago. There was a 73-year-old black man that won the lottery in Harlem. He was murdered by his nephew. There was another YouTuber, 848, the guy, the black dude from New York that did the 848 thing that was murdered, unsolved mystery at this point. Then there was the rapper XXT murdered by other black men. You know what's so ironic? I will hear more people give flack to the black outlier and the black dissenter that decides that, you know what, I'm not going to go down the path that the pro-blacks are going. I'm not going to go down the path of the hoteps and all that. I'm going to try something different. He will get more hate and attention than all the murderers of those black men. I've heard nothing but silence on YouTube since those men I just mentioned were murdered. They have nothing to say. In fact, I will hear more apologists for the regressives and the killers. Oh, he from a single mother home.
I can tell you why.
That kind of shit.
I can tell you why. Because those, look at it like a funnel. All those funnels of people who do all that bullshit go back to empowering black women. That's the fucking truth. All that shit goes back to empowering black women. Because the motherfuckers are afraid. That's why women, every time you see a male group, who joins? Bunch of bitter ass fucking burnt out single mothers. And they end up playing like they're like normal, and then they get on the admin group, and then they just start ninja kicking and blocking motherfuckers out the group. Because here's what they
do. Exactly.
Because here's the problem. Them motherfuckers are afraid of what's gonna happen, and I tell them, you goddamn right. You ain't seen nothing yet. Whatever you think is bad, it ain't nothing compared to what's gonna happen once we get this power back. It doesn't matter how many groups you fucking sit on. You ain't gonna be able to sit on the whole planet. There's too much room out here.
You just brought up a good point, because like a lot of the guys that I noticed that come to like channels like this one right now, they tend to be people that are like really self-sufficient. These are guys that are looking towards self-employment. These are guys that are making investments in Bitcoin, stuff like that. Yeah. What's going to happen? And I got a theory, and I'm going to put it out there, and y'all can think on it. I believe that when you take the 20 million of black American men, 1/3 of that population is headed in like multiple directions that will put them in a very positive situation now. And they're not going to be the same way. Like, for example, if you take the 100% of black males in America, 50% of those black males are going to be stuck in like almost like a black reservation system for perpetuity, for all I know. But what you're going to get with the other half is that probably they're going to split up into like basically two groups. One group is going to take advantage of the fact that there are still about 20 to 25% of black women that are good looking. They got their weight down. They got their stuff together. They're still feminine. I put them in about 25%. That group of black men is going to go take all those women that's remaining. Then you got the other group that I call like more like the SYBS type guys. They're going to go with other ethnic groups. They're going to link up with African women. They're going to link up with Asian women, white women, mixed women. It's going to be a big mixture. And I think that's how this thing is about to break apart. So just add on to what MOT said is that they're trying so hard to pull those men that are gone. They're not coming back to Blackistan, because there is nothing that you cannot. I have not heard anyone show me what is the benefit. We were compelled to associate with each other, and we got to get this through our thick heads. We were not. Black Americans were brought here as labor force, as servants, as slaves, okay? So we were compelled. There were hundreds of tribes in West Africa. We were compelled and funneled into the West to build labor for white people. Now, what has happened since the civil rights movement, the need for labor, the kind of labor that blacks had a specialty in, is not there anymore. So you have this surplus population of blacks who are not needed for anything. And for the first time, the blacks that are fit for this society, being a tech society, they're able to actually take their skills and maximize their happiness now for the first time because they're not being compelled. Black men were compelled to be with black women. Black women were compelled to be with black men. Now we're free to move around as we choose. And a lot of people have deep feelings about it because they feel like, oh my God, I'm naked, and everyone can see that I'm naked now. So all these regressives, they're naked now. Because the black men that in the past would have been talking about that black power Ungawar saying, me, 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 me. And that's what they're afraid of, is that black men are pursuing their own happiness.